A year before this, Lutter probably would have been a full-fledged Famicom Disk System release. Instead, it was resigned to the Disk Writer kiosk. There's only 5 retail releases left in the Famicom Disk System library, and one of those is the second half of an adventure game, so even original titles from this point on are mostly going to the rewriter. Lutter is the first and only Famicom Disk System game published by Athena. It's also the second game they ever published, coming a full year after their initial title. I suspect that if they didn't have a few more games ready to get released in the next couple months, that Lutter probably would have killed them. Lutter is a puzzle platform RPG. The plot of the game is that you're the heroic knight Lutter, and you're trying to rescue 5 kidnapped princesses from an evil castle. The castle consists of a series of interconnected rooms, and figuring out how to access the next area is 90% of Lutter's gameplay. In terms of controls, the B button opens up a stat menu where you can also choose to save, load, or quit. Surrender is there because it is possible to get yourself stuck in a situation where you can't escape. In fact, I'd say it's very easy to get yourself stuck in situations that you can't escape. The A button brings up Lutter's inventory, and these will be useful tools that you'll find scattered throughout the castle. These are limited in quantity, and using them properly is often required to progress, so this is a game where it's not only possible to put it into an unwinnable state, you are going to put it into an unwinnable state. Use that save and load wisely. Mainly, save when you know that you can undo it, and load anytime you think you might have made a mistake. Better to have to redo a little bit than have to go back to the beginning and do it all over again. You might have noticed that 2 functions for a side-scrolling action RPG were missing there, and that's because you don't jump and you don't choose to attack. If you want to navigate vertically in Lutter, then you have to climb ladders. And if you want to fight, then you get to use Ys-style bump combat. Just push into enemies. Defeated enemies will respawn a few seconds later in a door at that room, which means that you'll often find that something you've just beaten will reappear in your path. Defeat enough enemies and you'll level up, and that of course increases all of your stats. When you're fighting, there's several ways that you can get advantaged or disadvantaged. Attacking from above, for example, carries a pretty significant advantage. And you'll have trouble attacking as you cross hand over hand on a rope. You're also more vulnerable when you're climbing a ladder. However, all of these conditions apply to the enemies just as much as you. So enemies can also get advantaged or disadvantaged. It helps to plan out your positioning a little bit. If you are defeated, then it's game over, unless you've picked up enough gold to bribe the monsters with. If you've got the cash, then you'll reappear at the entrance to the room. There's a lot of things that you'll collect in the castle to help you. The most obvious one are the keys. There are a lot of locked doors between you and the princesses. Yellow keys unlock the doors that you can just walk into. Green keys unlock the doors that connect passages. Those doors, as well as the passages that monsters emerge from, can be entered by pressing up while you're in front of them, and there's basically a front and back side to every room. You'll often have to travel back and forth, and since the doors always correspond to the same position on the front and back side, you'll always know where you'll wind up, while getting to the door might be more difficult. Finally, the silver key unlocks the door to boss rooms. The bosses are one place where you'll get an automatic game over if you're defeated. You can't bribe them with your money. And you're able to wander freely up and down in those rooms. Yeah, I didn't realize that while I was fighting this boss. Hitting A in the boss room will use one of your healing seeds, another item that you can find in the maze, and that will fully restore your health. The other way to restore your health is to just stand still. After a few seconds, your life will start restoring on its own. Another important navigation point in the maze are the buttons that will make ladders appear. There's never a reason to avoid pushing those. And there are certain walls that you can just walk through in some areas. They do give you some hints, but it still feels a bit unfair. As for items that can help you with navigation, there's an item that will make a block appear, a bomb that will destroy a block, and a special warning sign that monsters won't cross, and you can actually pick up that warning sign again after you've put it down. One more item that you can find are cans, barrels, something, but you drink those potions and you increase one of your stats. After you defeat a boss, a ladder to the next floor of the castle will appear, and you just keep climbing. The actual floors aren't especially large, maybe 5 screens across, though there is that front and back side. As for how Lutter is perceived in Japan, well, I was expecting to talk about how obscure it was, because disc copies are actually pretty rare. Not expensive, just really rare. And then I found a surprising number of people going, "Oh yeah, Lutter's great!" I'm not going to say it's wildly popular, because by my count this is the 4th video online about Lutter, but it's definitely a game that has some fans. Personally, I think this one's pretty interesting, and it's short enough that I think it doesn't overstay its welcome. My biggest problem with Lutter is that you're going to put your game in an unwinnable state, and you might not realize for a while that this has happened. Being able to save anywhere helps mitigate that, but you could very easily save when the game is unwinnable, and there's only one save slot here. Still, I always like these games that make me think, and I found the puzzles in Lutter to be pretty reasonable. Alright, not necessarily the invisible passage, but getting a feel for where I should use an item, and if I could use it there safely, you're gonna have to do a bit of planning. I feel like Lutter brings an interesting mix of systems to the table, and while none of those live up to their maximum potential, the combination is distinctive enough that it's worth checking out.